Today, I have Sabrina Bendory here with me, and I am so excited for you to listen to her because she shares her story of a whole bunch of toxic relationships and these patterns of dating narcissists and emotionally unavailable people again and again and again. And I just feel like her story helps us unshame these patterns so deeply and understand what is driving this, how we do this, and how we can connect with ourselves and our self worth back again so deeply that we become unattached. And the main theme here is becoming unattached to other people, to other outcomes, and becoming securely attached to ourselves. So, this is going to be a great conversation. Here we go. Hello, hello, Sabrina. So happy to see you and talk to you. Thank you for
Hi.
being here.
Thank you for having me.
You have this beautiful book behind you,
Mhm.
Detached. Well, two books,
Yeah.
Detached. And can you just talk about that word? Because it's so hard.
Yeah.
I mean, not even just in relationships, but like, what does that word even mean?
So I think that that word for a while, for me, and I think for other people, kind of meant being cold, kind of not being emotional, not showing your emotions, but that's not what it means at all. Being detached doesn't mean that you're detaching from people. Like, you still care, you still can have relationships, you still can want love, but you are detaching from outcomes. It's more about trusting that things will work out the way that they're meant to, not feeling like you have to force life to be a certain way. You have to force a certain relationship, you have to force a certain timeline. Granted, we have to put in effort, we have to put effort into our lives. I don't believe in just creating a vision board and sitting and manifesting and then that's that. But we also have to like exert some effort. But then there's a point where you have to let go and let the chips fall where they may. So that is the essence of detachment. I always put it like this. It's about being self-sourced rather than outsourcing your feelings of worth and worthiness.
Beautiful. Oh, so much there. So, what if someone has a very intense desire for something? Case it could be anything, right? It could
Mhm.
money, whatever goal they have. But in this case, we're talking about love and relationships.
Yeah.
Can do we detach from the desire? Like we stop
Oh,
wanting?
no. No, absolutely. We don't wanna ever detach from our desire. That's completely abandoning yourself. So you want love, you want a relationship, you wanna find your person. You can absolutely say that, acknowledge that, and then take steps. What are some action steps I can do to maximize my chances of finding love? I can look my best. I can feel my best. I can read books about relationships so that I learn the tools to be good at a relationship. I can read John Gottman's 7 Principles of Making Marriage Work. I can heal my trauma. I could do whatever work I need to
Read
do.
your book.
Yeah, read my book, obviously. I can we all have work that needs to be done. I can figure out, but I want to clarify that does not mean you have to be fully healed before you can be in a relationship. Okay, that's all the stuff that is under the umbrella of control for me. I'm going to do all those things. Now, in terms of when it happens, how it happens, that is not under my control. So, in the meantime, I'm just going to enjoy where I'm at in life. I'm going to enjoy it for what it is in that moment. I'm going to make the best of it. And as somebody who has lived in circumstances that weren't ideal for a long time, whether it was me wanting love, wanting money, wanting a certain to get to a certain place in my career, wanting to exit from a very toxic business partnership that I was stuck in for a very long time, you can I mean, the circumstances are the circumstances. If you're single either way, whether you choose to be miserable about it or whether you choose to embrace it for what it is. So we always want to be taking the steps towards what we ultimately want, but at the same time, you cannot live in absolute misery and despair over where you happen to be at that moment in time. It just makes for a miserable life. It puts you in a very fear-based place, and then you start making decisions out of fear. Maybe you start going out with guys where, like, otherwise you would not have gone out with them, but you force yourself to because you're so scared of ending up alone, and then it doesn't work out, and then it proves to you once again that nothing's gonna work out for you. You're never gonna find love. It's hopeless, and you live in this loop. So, the reality is the reality. Your mindset determines whether you are going to suffer in that reality or whether you can make it a hospitable? I think like a place where you are happy to inhabit until you move to that next phase in your life.
So if somebody's really desperate, like so desperate for a partner, and they're just in that energy of like
Mm.
very intense desperation, and it's kind of maybe it takes over their lives. Maybe it's just a big part of their life. They're feeling it.
Mhm.
What would you encourage them to do?
Well, first, I would give them a little bit of tough love and say the stink of desperation poisons everything, not just romantic relationships. When someone is desperate to be your friend, when someone is desperate to sell you something, there are certain stores I remember, back in the days where I actually went to stores to go shopping. Now I do everything online. But like when the sales girls are just like on top of you and are just desperate to like make that sale, get that commission, whenever there's desperation attached to something, people immediately put their guard up. So if you're feeling so desperate for love, again, do not deny your desire. Yes, I want love. I want to find my person, but you have to channel that energy into something else. Otherwise, it's too much. There's too much at stake. You can't be detached because you're so attached to the outcome, the potential outcome. So I would say, embrace your friendships, spend more time with friends, make your life something wonderful, something that you love, something that brings you so much joy and fulfillment. One thing about my single life that like I ache for today as a mother of four who is very much tethered to being in one spot. My kids like will cry if I like even leave to go to the pharmacy for 20 minutes. Is I used to travel so much and it was so fun just being single and being free and living for myself. Pursue your passions, pursue hobbies, make your life full. It's normally if you're desperate for a relationship like that, it's usually because there's some sort of emptiness within your life. You're feeling a lack and you want the relationship to fill that void. But a relationship can't really fill a void like that. And so I would say try to look at ways in which you can fulfill that void within yourself first. And that just makes a relationship a happier place because you're coming into it already full with a well-rounded life.
Mm. I remember like a good friend of mine saying, when you have a partner, it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be happy. Like
Mhm.
all the time. It's not like,
Yeah.
oh, now I'm happy and all the time and everything's fine. It's like, no. Um, what what is that void? Like, can you talk more about that void, like the origins of it, why it's there? Especially I feel like for women,
Mhm.
there's so much history of us needing to be married, right?
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's the whole first chapter of my book, my new book. That's not out yet. The Feminine Code is yeah, all the programming that we experience, usually on a subconscious level, about this ultimate desire to be chosen, and how that is what makes you worthy is being chosen. And okay, so your original question was like, where does that void come from? Okay, well, a few places. The first place is that conditioning that we've received for our entire lives. We've seen it on movies, in TV, and in so many different forms where the ultimate goal is getting a man. Now, once upon a time for women, getting married was about survival because women had so few economic options. You needed to secure a man in order to secure your future. That wasn't it wasn't viable for a woman to not have that. Then as women gained more options and jobs and livelihood, being chosen still remained so centered and so at the forefront. And then we had these waves of relationship advice that would come along, like the rules that taught women, okay, so you can't, you have to make him wait 3 dates before you kiss him, be a creature unlike any others. And it was all these rules like be accommodating, be pleasing, don't be too loud, don't be too much. And these are the rules that you have to follow. Then why men love bitches. It was the same thing, the same messaging. Then we also get this messaging of like, no, you got to be the cool girl, be the chill girl, don't have any needs. It was all about modifying our behavior for the sake of being chosen. And then we have something like Sex in the City that comes along and is like, yeah, female empowerment. Women can date like men and we're so strong, empowered women. But the show was all about men. The center of the show was about Carrie chasing after this toxic, emotionally unavailable man, and then she ends up with him in the end. So this message this messaging has just been so off. So
Lovely. I love it. Perfect.
and that's like one part of it. The next part of it, if we're going deeper, is our childhood conditioning. This conditioning that a lot of us have, especially the millennial women who were brought up by boomers. It was a very different generation. Nobody healed their trauma. Nobody thought about feelings. Nobody validated any feelings or validated any emotions. And so a lot of us grew up with this feeling of, I am not enough. My real self is not enough. More than anything, what kids need is emotional attunement, not stuff, not activities. They need, not even just you being, I mean, presence is important, but the type of presence matters. Like you being in the same room, but somewhere else is not the same as you fully attuning to a child's emotions. And most of us got the message, especially as women, be the good girl, be quiet, be the people pleaser. And if we were the people pleaser, then we got love, then we were worthy. If we acted in a way, if we were too emotional, if we were too much, we were told to be quiet. So we get this message, we internalize this message that our real selves are not enough. And we are only enough if we are being chosen, if we can secure love. So that's the origins of the void. It starts with just this feeling of I'm just not enough for who I am, and being chosen by someone else is what's going to make me worthy.
Mm-hmm. As a mom, I'm so curious, like, can you share what attunement was like because so many of my clients are like, I didn't have trauma, and I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, so what is actually healthy and nourishing emotional attunement look like and feel like and sound like?
It is looking at them. I see you. I hear you. Your emotions are valid. You are not ridiculous for feeling the way that you feel, and helping that child co-regulate. Children cannot regulate on their own. Their nervous systems are completely like out of whack. That's why a kid can go from so happy to like screaming, tantruming on the floor in 2 seconds. They just have such poor regulation skills.
So can adults.
Oh, yes, that's absolutely true as well. So
the adults that raised me, for example. Yes, unfortunately. Yeah.
So that's what it's about. It is attuning to their emotional state and letting them know that that's okay, and helping them regulate that, whatever that is, and letting them know that that's okay.
And how do you help them regulate?
You need to be regulated. Look, I'm speaking about this. I'm definitely not the expert on this. It's very, very challenging. Children will trigger you like nothing else. It is exhausting. It is so dysregulating, but you help them regulate by regulating yourself, by being calm, being present. I've been working with my kids on like emotion processing. My daughter makes herself like, because she's a little girl, so they have a lot of big feelings. She makes herself a cozy corner, and she'll take deep breaths. And if she's like getting all amped up about something, she'll go to her little cozy corner. And then I ended up buying her like a little like tent in her room, and she has pillows and she has books, and like she goes there to regulate and to get herself back to a state of calm. And then she realizes whatever she was like screaming and crying about, like probably wasn't as big of a deal. But I don't, I want her to arrive there and get to a place where, and I can help her through that. But now that she's getting older, it's different. And then with the babies, I have a toddler and then I have a preschooler. I put him in like the baby category though. With them, it's just much more about riding it out with them, okay? And normally the feelings, they're big, they're explosive. You just sit, you stay centered, and you stay calm. And a lot of the time, they're going to match your energy. Like when I get frustrated with them, or when I'm like yelling because I'm frustrated, it just makes everything so much worse. It's just going to amplify it. If you want them to dial back down, you kind of have to set the standard, and then they'll match you. There's mirror neurons. It's true with people. This is why one person yawns, the other person yawns. It kind of has that effect. And so our nervous systems are linked. We do sync up with each other. This is why when you're around somebody who's very stressed out and anxious, you feel stressed out and anxious. So with kids are hyper attuned to the adults around them, because they rely on the adults for their survival, whether they're, obviously they don't like realize this fully on a conscious level. So once you set that standard, they'll match you, and then they can calm down and it's like nothing ever happened.
Beautiful. I love
Mhm.
that. And that's how many of us have had that? Very few.
Yeah.
And in our age, age group. How do women get to a point where they feel chosen without a man? And even if they're in a partnership, how do they start to just feel like chosen inside?
Well, it goes back to the cliche that you have to choose yourself. You have to anchor into, I know that I'm worthy. I know that I'm valuable. I know that I'm lovable. And a lot of women, a lot of my clients will push back against me, but I don't know that. And I don't feel that. And you know what I say? Just tell it to yourself anyway. Like, you don't need to see it and then believe it. Start to believe it and then you'll see it, and stack up evidence that you are who you say you are. Keep promises to yourself. If you have I remember, for example, I remember at a certain point in time in my life, especially as I got to my late 20s, everything started shifting around me. So many of my friends were moving away. I think that they get to this point living in New York City where you're like done after a certain point. It's like it's too expensive, it's too chaotic, and they all wanted to go back where they came from, whether it's like the South or California. And I remember I had like no friends left. And then I was like, okay, what I really want for myself, the life I want is I want like a big friend group. I want to have amazing experiences. I want to take advantage of like living in the city. And I'm a very introverted person. I'm someone who's very happy to just be home and stay there and not leave. But I really kind of forced myself to go out of my comfort zone. And I did end up making like a whole new amazing group of friends and living exactly what it was that I wanted and pursuing that. And that felt really good. And I had this point in time. I talk about this a lot. I write about it in the book. I talk about it on my page all the time. The summer of me, where I was so burnt out on dating. I was just so over it. It was one disaster after the next. And you have to keep in mind that I was a relationship writer. I had a very successful relationship blog. My career was giving relationship advice. So not only was I like failing in my personal life, but I felt like a fraud professionally because I was like, how am I going to have this career if I can't get it together? And so I decided to just fully step back, stop trying to be chosen, stop trying to get the outside world to validate me and tell me I was okay and I was worthy and I was enough, and instead just live a life that I really loved and really cultivate my self-worth and feeling good about who I am. And I did that. And after that, everything changed. Like all of a sudden, all these men were coming out of the woodwork from every corner of the earth. And that's when I reconnected with my husband. We had dated in high school and for 10 years, we were in and out of each other's lives. We reconnected. And very soon after that, it was like we were in a serious relationship. And 6 months later, we were engaged. And then 6 months later, we were married. And then a few months after that, we were pregnant. Like, and then life just sped up after that. But it was
Wow.
like a decade of being in the trenches, being in hell with dating, the same toxic cycles over and over. So it really, it's not a coincidence that it all changed as soon as I chose myself.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Can you talk about the toxic side?
Oh, the toxic cycles I went through? Oh, God.
Yes, and yeah, and because, it's so easy to be like, "Okay, we've done all this healing and now it's done, and you
Yeah.
should have someone perfect."
No, it's never done. Okay, so for me, without making this 5 hours long, I had a major unworthiness wound because growing up I was the unattractive friend. I was like a little bit bigger than my friends, and so all I wanted was to be chosen. And then when I got to my late teens, I was very attractive and I would just put pleasing a man above anything else. And this makes you very susceptible to bad people and narcissists. And in college, I got involved with a guy. I didn't even have the language for it at the time, even though I was a psychology major and literally I was taking abnormal psych the semester I started dating him. I'm literally learning about the cluster B personality disorders, and I did not see what was right in front of me. And I don't say narcissist like, oh, he was selfish. I mean, nothing was ever his fault. He twisted everything around to make me feel actually crazy. The gaslighting. And again, like these are terms that get thrown around. So I want to like paint a picture of what that actually looks like. With him, very early on, he had just been dumped by his ex-girlfriend. He was depressed. He was miserable. We met out one night. It was pretty electric. And this whole story is the prologue of my new book, by the way. It's quite a story. Anyway, so then we started seeing each other. And then I found out that he was seeing his ex behind my back again. And I was like, oh my God, like, how can you do this? And he made me feel like it was my fault for having expectations of him because we were so early on in dating. And he managed to twist things around so much that I ended up apologizing to him for being upset that he was seeing his ex-girlfriend behind my back. And I wasn't stupid. I was a smart person.
This
But
is I'm
he,
relating, don't worry,
right?
I'm relating, yes.
I know. For anyone listening who's like, what an idiot this girl is, they can twist reality to that extent where I was like, you're right. Like, you're depressed, you're struggling, and things were so up in the air with her, and you didn't know, and you poor guy, like, you figure it out. Like, he made me feel like I was unreasonable for being upset about this. And he ended up ending it with her for good this time. He came back. Of course, I took him back without a second thought, like, no consequences. That relationship basically went on like that, where he would just do these things. Like, he could be really wonderful and he could be so heinously awful. Sorry. Okay, so I'm sorry. Okay, like, they're home, of course, like, even though there's two adults down there, my nanny and my husband are home. I'm like, okay, fine. Okay.
So
Anyway,
this is the cycle of abuse.
this was the cycle of abuse. One
Yeah.
time he told me that the reason he chose me is because he knew he could never breed with somebody like me. He could never have kids with somebody like me. He's like, so I knew I would never get too attached to you because I would never want to have kids with someone like you. This stuck with me and never left me and governed. When you don't challenge those beliefs that you internalize, my whole life, I was like, no man's ever going to want to marry me. No man's going to want to have kids with me. It led to this feeling of like panic because I always knew I wanted 4 kids and I have 4 kids. So I got it in the end. So he would make me feel absolutely crazy. Okay. In the end, he ended up cheating on me and leaving me for her and acting like I never even mattered or existed. Acting like me being upset was again, the gaslighting was almost like, he was like, well, it was just never, it wasn't working. Like, it wasn't going to work. So like, what did you expect? And I'm like, I was with you for a year. I did everything for you. Like, everything I had, I gave to that relationship. And then in the end, he was like, what did you think was going to happen? Almost like I was a fool. So after that, you don't just recover from something like that. A breakup with a narcissist is a very specific kind of agony
I
because
feel like I have done this several times,
Mhm.
and I feel like it just makes you so crazy, and
It does. You can't trust yourself. That's the thing. They leave, and it's not just the devastation of this person leaving, even though they're awful. They're out of your life, but you're left with this version of yourself that you don't even recognize because you're not who you used to be. And with the end of that relationship, he took so much from me. You know, my my idealism. I was so loving. I was so in my light feminine and nurturing and caring. And after that, I just went to the dark side. I was shut down. I was cold. And so this is where my toxic cycle. So that relationship ended when I was 21. And that was the pattern from 21 to 29 until I really got it together, where the guys who liked me and were genuinely interested in me, I was like repulsed by them. Like, get away from me. Don't even talk to me. I just couldn't. I couldn't let them in. But the guys who weren't choosing me, the guys who were avoidant, the guys who were just not that into me, then I would fixate. Then I would become super obsessed. And then again, it's like you're validating the way you already feel about yourself. I'm not worthy. I'm not good enough. So the guys that are choosing me, ugh, what's wrong with you? It's like, I'm not worthy and good enough. So if you're choosing me, something must be very wrong with you. And the guys that didn't want me, who were toxic, those are the ones that I would obsess over, and that never ended well. So I just ended up in this cycle of what is wrong with me? Like, how am I ever going to find someone? How am I ever going to get married and get kids if this is what my cycle is? And then when I was 29, the big crescendo was I did it again, even though I knew so much at that point. And by that point, I had done a lot of therapy. I had done energy work. I had done body healing. Like, I really, really had released so much trauma. I had done IFS. I was really on this whole quest to heal myself. And this guy dumped me after 2 dates. And it was very respectful. He was like, I just don't see this working out. He was very emotionally avoidant. We were kind of in the same circles in the city. We lived a few blocks away from each other, and I couldn't let it go. And I chased him for almost a year. And after that, it was like, what am I doing? What am I doing? Like, this has to change. I refuse to turn 30 and still be behaving like this because I was 29 and a half at this point. And I was like, I refuse to enter my 30s still doing this. And that's what really woke me up and led to me changing the pattern and changing it for good. And my husband, for anyone listening who's like, oh my God, that's me. Like, I only want the ones who don't want me. I don't want the ones who want me. My husband was the first relationship where I wanted him and he wanted me back. And those two things existed in equal measure. I had never had that before. Not even the first time he and I dated. I was way more into it than he was when we dated in high school.
So crazy. And I feel like those toxic relationships are so addictive. Like,
Oh, yeah.
you want to like change that person and you're just fixate on, but you know, I can do it. Like, they can be different. And here's what I need to do to make that happen.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
It is addicted chemically. Like that you're not even like, that's not even like a metaphor. That's literal. That's true. You become addicted to that intermittent reinforcement cycle where you don't know. Cause sometimes, especially in like the situationships, the undefined gray area, when they do something that indicates that they might like you back, it feels so good. But you don't know what to expect with this person. And the anticipation creates that dopamine spike. And then you literally get addicted to that feeling. They'd even found in studies with rats that the rats that got rewards on a predictable cycle, they compared that to the rats that got the rewards on an unpredictable cycle. And they saw that the dopamine spike was much higher when the reward was unpredictable. So it's when you don't know if it's coming or not. When you know it's coming, your levels are just much more even keeled and at a baseline. And that's why we get so addicted to the ones where we just don't know. We don't know if they like us or how they feel about us.
totally. And it drives your nervous system
Oh,
crazy.
yes. It's terrible. It's awful.
And so interestingly for me, my experience has always been men who like say they want me, that they would do anything for me, like don't leave me, but they're not really, really showing that. You know, they're not like really meeting me.
Right.
They're avoidant. Yeah, it's very interesting. And it can be confusing because you're like, well, but you do want me, but you don't really.
Right.
Like,
And if that's what you attract, the question you need to ask yourself is, what is this reflecting back to me about me? Because usually it's a mirror for something within yourself. And if you're attracting emotionally avoidant people, it's because there's a part of you that's emotionally avoidant and emotionally unavailable. For me, I mean, if you looked at me when I was in my 20s, with certain guys, I seemed like this desperate, love-starved puppy. But at the same time, I was terrified of ever being hurt again, the way I'd been hurt by that narcissist. So I was emotionally blocked. I could never really connect with anyone. That's why I was just wasting my time on guys that were clearly wastes of time. And the guys that were genuine, I was too scared to even go there. So on the surface, I was like, yeah, I want love. I want to find my person. But deep down, I was terrified of it. And the fear was completely overriding the desire.
yeah, absolutely. I know I have that part for sure.
Mm-hmm.
How did you work with that, like in yourself, when the avoidant part in you?
Yeah. Okay. So that was a multi-step process. First is I had to start treating myself as if I respected myself. And I didn't respect myself because I had done so many stupid things and made so many bad choices. And the evidence kind of stacks up after a while where you're like, I'm a fool, I'm a failure. So the first big thing for me, I call this the George Costanza technique. I don't know if you ever watched Seinfeld, but there was an episode where George, he's this downtrodden guy, nothing ever goes well. He's like, everything in my life is terrible. So I am just going to do the opposite. So I'm going to do the opposite of every instinct I have. And one day he like wants to order an egg salad sandwich and instead he orders tuna, and like, this beautiful woman is like, oh my God, I ordered the exact same sandwich as you. So I decided to start with doing the opposite. So if something didn't go the way I wanted it to go, if I wasn't, if I went out one night and wasn't getting hit on in the past, I needed that. That was how I knew I was worthy, that I was something, I was valuable. Instead of being self-destructive and starving myself or drinking too much or whatever it was, I'm like, no, I'm just going to sit with this feeling. I'm going to have a green juice. I'm going to do a yoga class. I'm just going to be. Instead of speaking to myself so negatively, I actually started to be nice to myself. And then I actually started to make choices that were in alignment with who I wanted to be, rather than just feeding into the same self-destructive cycle that I had been doing for so long. And I also just stopped focusing on men, stopped centering men in my life, and centered myself. I chose myself. And like I said, I was traveling, I had beautiful friendships. I really worked on my writing because we all have that thing that makes us feel alive and makes us feel like, okay, I was put in this world to do that thing. Mine is writing. That is the thing. I was like given one talent in this world, and it's that. And so,
I'm
I,
sure more than one.
well, that's the main one. And so I was like, I really want to hone in on this. I want to, and that just made me feel so good. That really gave me this sense of purpose in my life. And it made me realize I am so much more than whether or not some avoidant guy chooses me. And then I started just once I made that shift, everything just kind of started to click into place. And but I do want to add, it's not just, oh, I did these few things over one summer and it was magic. Those things were important, but I had also done so much leading up to it. The problem is I wasn't consistent. I would do therapy and I would do the hypnosis and I would have all these breakthroughs, but then I would backslide back into the old ways. So this time I really made an effort to not do that. To really, I know that I'm someone with a lot of grit. I really am. I can power through and persevere. And so I channeled that into this. I'm not going to let myself go back down the same self-destructive roads. I'm not going to keep living the same cycles over and over again. And I think that the number 30, like hanging over my head, was very motivating to me. I mean, now I look at 30, I'm like, oh my God, that's so young. But at the time, it felt like I'm like about to be a real grown up here. I need to get my ducks in a row. I need to get my life in order. And so I just did it. And sometimes, and I see this all the time with my clients, you have to hit that rock bottom. If you're still comfortable where you're at, it's very easy to just stay there. I had hit a point where I was like, I cannot do this anymore. I cannot live as this person one more day. And every client that works with me, it's because they're at that point. And I can always see it when they're like, she's still a little comfortable in this situationship. They come to me because they're like, I am done. I am absolutely done. I need to get out of this and I need to get out of this as quickly as possible. So I was there and, I bottomed out and that really led to change. But it's not a light switch. It's still a daily practice. And when you have those old systems, it's so embedded in you that it becomes such a part of you. And so it's almost like it's a lifelong work to separate that out, but it becomes easier and you get better at catching yourself before you sink into those old familiar ways.
Yeah, I love this because it's so unshaming, like the way you're talking about it. And would you call it like love addiction?
Love addiction? I don't know if I call it love addiction. I think that it's a self-worth problem. And we're trying to find our worth in the outside rather than the inside. And I think that we just think all I need is a man to choose me and then I'll be okay. But it's never enough. Fine, he chooses you, but then one day he's a little distant and you're panicking and you're like, oh my God, does he not like me anymore? And then you need that constant reassurance and it becomes exhausting for whoever you're with because it's not their job. So I think that I wouldn't say love addiction, I would say approval addiction. That's how I would put it.
Mhm. Yes. I think for me, rock bottom is the nervous system stuff, like the level of anxiety and exhaustion. It's
Mhm.
very draining.
Yeah.
It's burnout, like burnout from the highs and lows, right? Of like
Mhm.
chasing these kinds of relationships. How did it feel when you reconnected with your husband? Like, was that like scary for you? Because, oh my God, like, yeah, it's different. It's unfamiliar.
Oh gosh. Okay. Well, we had run into each other several times over that decade. And every time I would get my hopes up because I like was so crazy about him. Even though our relationship was so short-lived in high school, it's almost like my soul recognized something in him. But he was a very early relationship for me. I mean, I was a senior in high school and I'd never even really had a boyfriend before. So, and again, like I said, it was a very short relationship. It meant a lot more to me than it did to him. And so after we broke up, I mean, I was so wrecked over it and absolutely devastated. And I think that it was the precursor to that narcissist, I'm being totally honest, because I don't think I ever really recovered. I don't even like saying that part because I know my husband feels really guilty about it because, Anyway, so it wasn't intentional on his part. I was already very fragile, I guess we'll say. So after it had been years, and I think we ran into each other like 5 years later, and I was like, oh my God, like this is it. Like we're gonna get back together and the chemistry is here. But then he disappeared. And then 2 years later, like we ran into each other again. And again, like the chemistry was always so electric. So I was like, yeah, he's gonna ask me out again. I would get all so excited about it. I would get my hopes up. And then as the days went on and every day was just agony, like, is he gonna contact me? But then he just never did. Then one time we ran into each other and we would start talking, like we were like texting here and there, but it just never went anywhere. So the final time we ran into each other, it was during the infamous Summer of Me. It was in Central Park. I saw him and I was with a friend and she was really upset about some guy. And I was like, no, we got to go say hi to him. She's like, no, I don't want to talk to people right now. I'm like, you don't understand. I only see him like once every few years. I need to go say hi. But this time I didn't have any hopes or any expectations. What I did is after we saw each other, I messaged him and we had like a nice little chat and I opened the door wide for him to ask me out. Said something like, he asked me a question. I was like, this story's so much better in person. He was like, oh yeah, okay. Haha, nice seeing you. Like, good night. And I was like, all right, forget it. Forget it. And I didn't get upset. I didn't attach to any outcome. I moved on with my fabulous life because my life was so fabulous at that point. And then for reasons that unknown that he can't even articulate, at the end of the summer, I was in Italy and I was posting pictures online, like when I was on my trip, and he started liking them. And I got this feeling, and I told my friend, and she'll vouch for me. I was like, he likes me again. She's like, Sabrina, like you always think that, and it's never true. And I was like, no. When we come back, a few days after we come back, I bet I'm going to hear from him. He's going to reach out to me. And that's exactly what happened. He reached out to me, asked me out. Our first date was 7 hours long. But on the day that like I knew that of our first date, I was so nervous. I remember that was the longest day of my entire life. It was the longest day. I remember every like minute just ticking by so slowly because I've been waiting for this for 10 years. I can't believe this day is like finally here. But I controlled myself. That first date, I was very nervous. Fine. We had an amazing date, 7 hours long. In those early phases of the relationship, I did not get too attached. I kept my other options open. I allowed myself to mentally picture all the ways things could go rather than what I would do in the past is just latch on forcefully and think I have to make this work and this has to. Instead, I was like, I would love for this to work out. Like, what a story. That would be incredible, but I'll be okay if it doesn't. And, he was just so into me from the beginning. The relationship moved pretty quickly. We were just on the same page. And it was just the healthiest relationship I'd ever been in. And it was so nice. Just the absence of how does he feel about me? And am I going to hear from him? There was just no worry. And then there was a point in time where I got very freaked out by that. I was like, it's going too well. Like this is weird. This is weird. And I realized that I had to get comfortable in that discomfort. And the discomfort didn't mean that there was something wrong. It didn't mean that there was something bad. It didn't mean that it was a red flag. It was just completely foreign to me because I'd never had that before. Because I never let myself have that before because I'd always run away from it in the past and run towards the damage cases. So I did have a period of like, this is weird, of like picking him apart, of trying to figure out like what could possibly go wrong. But then I stopped myself because I saw what I was doing for what it was. And then I was like, I am just going to lean into this because this is so nice. And we've been married now for almost 11 years. And I can tell you, just being with someone who has a secure attachment style, who is emotionally available, it's just so wonderful. Life is just so hard as it is. I cannot even fathom doing life with someone like that crazy narcissist or the emotionally avoidant guys that I went after. I just couldn't fathom it. It would just be misery.
Can you share? I have a few questions. One is like, how do you know in your body, in your psyche, the difference between like, this is uncomfortable, unfamiliar to like, this is unhealthy? Mm-hmm. And then what does healthy actually look and feel like?
Oh, wow. What a good question. I think the uncomfortable because it's unfamiliar is when there's nothing that is objectively wrong and you just can't sit with that. For example, on my third date with my husband, he was being like kind of quiet and like a little like not as jokey. And I was like, I don't know if I like this. He's too quiet. I need somebody who's like, can talk more, whatever. I was just picking him apart. Nothing was actually wrong in terms of something unhealthy. That is, you see a sign of like, this isn't right. Either you catch him in a few too many lies, either you can't rely on him, you can't trust him. Either he's saying one thing and doing another. He's saying, oh, I'm crazy about you, I like you so much, but then he'll disappear for days or like a week at a time, and then he'll come back with excuses. And something in you, we always know when it's not right. Your gut instinct just knows. You don't feel like you can just be. You feel like you have to analyze. You feel like you're bracing for impact. You feel like at any moment the rug could just be pulled out from under me and I just have no idea. And there's just always signs. There always are. Like you always know when something isn't right. The problem is that a lot of the time we see the signs and we're like, but I bet if I just love him enough, or if I can just like, I bet I can help him, I can heal him, whatever it is that whatever magic we think that we're capable of. So we kind of ignore those signs. Now, a healthy relationship just feels steady. It feels like you can be who you are. You can express your needs. You can set the boundary. You're not afraid of that you're going to trip some wire and that's it. You're going to blow everything up. In an unhealthy relationship, you're afraid of those things because your boundaries will get trampled all over. And that's like what a narcissist will do. They don't want you to have boundaries. They want complete control over you. In an unhealthy relationship, they'll convince you that you want something that you don't actually want. They'll say, oh, but like what we have is so great. Why do we have to put a label on it? Let's just keep things undefined. And you don't want that, but you convince yourself that you do. In an unhealthy relationship, a person does not take accountability. That's the biggest sign. They always blame you. It's not collaborative. It's one person doing all the emotional labor and the other person just kind of doing whatever they want and the other person. So those are the key differences. But a healthy relationship just feels like peace, not like boredom, like peace.
I love that. And you said you were very nervous for that date.
Yes.
What would be the difference like of being attached and being nervous? Because I think those can be like so similar, you know, and then when you're not attached, is it like, well, I know if this doesn't work out, there's more people out there. Like, I'll be okay.
Right. I think that the attached part of it is that there's a lot at stake because you're measuring your worth based on whether or not this person chooses you. So I wasn't attached in that way because at that point, like I knew I was the shit, you know, I was just thriving. I was thriving on every level. I felt so good about who I was. And I was no longer operating from this place of fear, this place of I'm defective. I'm never going to find anyone. I was nervous just because it had been so many years of buildup. It was nervous/excited. I wasn't nervous that, oh, if he doesn't like me, I'm going to fall to pieces and him not wanting me is going to confirm my worst fears about myself. It was more, all right, I'm going to go into this. And if it doesn't work out, I know that I will be okay. When you're too attached, you don't have that feeling of, I know I'll be okay. You feel like if this person doesn't choose me, I'm going to implode. It's going to be the end of me.
That was probably my rock bottom. Yeah. Yeah, feeling that way.
Yeah. It's a terrible feeling. It's a terrible feeling to have no agency over your life, over yourself, and to be so at the mercy of everyone around you. It's exhausting.
I was using that word. I'm at the mercy of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. This is so good. As we're starting to wrap up, I'm wondering if there's anything you want to share that I haven't asked about that's important in this conversation.
I think that people don't realize all the ways in which they have agency and power over their lives. I feel like we're just waiting for the outside world to change and then it'll change how we feel about ourselves, when really it does start with you, and it starts with changing the way you relate to yourself. It starts with changing how you show up in the world. It starts with challenging your thoughts with what you believe about yourself, what you believe to be true. And then things in your life really will start to shift. And it's not going to be natural at first, and it's going to be very uncomfortable. And I know people can hear my story and think that, oh, well, like it was just luck. And I get it. You could see it that way, but it was also so much work on myself. And I was really coming from a very messy, disastrous place. I was very self destructive for a very long time. And I really had to decide to not be that way anymore. But it's more than just a decision, it is committing to implementing and really changing the narrative, changing the story that you've been telling yourself about yourself, probably for your whole life, and then aligning with a new story that is who you want to be.
I love that.
Thank you.
You have 2 books. When is the second one coming out?
The third one. So I have 2 books. They're both behind me. You're Overthinking It and Detached. And my third book, The Feminine Code, is coming out June 16th.
Wow, that's so exciting. This will probably be out around then. So perfect.
Amazing. Get the book. It's on Amazon, on Shop Catalog. It's really an investigation into why women end up in the types of relationships that I described with that narcissist. Why do we sell ourselves out for the sake of being chosen? Where does this come from? Where does it originate? And how do we heal from it? And what is a new code? It's called the feminine code because what is our new code? What is our new standard for operating? It was kind of, for me, I was very, I guess I don't want to say inspired, but the book Why Men Love Bitches definitely rocked me when I was in my 20s and I read it. But there was no how and why in there. It was just, this is what you need to do. You need to value yourself. You need to not let him walk all over you. I'm like, yeah, I need to do this. But why was I like this in the first place? And how can I stop? Because I know you're telling me to stop, but when I'm sitting on the couch and I'm like desperate to text him and I can't, and I'm feeling nauseous because he hasn't texted me back yet, how do I just sit with that? How do I deal with it? And so this really teaches you how to do that, how to actually be that person, how to be that woman who never sells herself out or loses herself for the sake of a man ever again.
I love that. I want to read all your books. They all sound amazing. And can people also work with you one-on-one? Like, do you teach workshops?
Yes, they can. I have an 8-week course, and as part of the course, you get to work with me one-on-one. I also have an inner circle membership where I've been doing this for 16 years. So all the content that I've created, I come out with new masterclasses every month on all topics. We do detachment. I do a whole series on the Summer of You where I teach you how to do what I did in my Summer of Me, classes on how to be charming, how to be approachable, how to build your self-worth, how to heal your mother wounds, like so much. So all of that can be found at my website, sabrinabendory.com, or you can reach out to me. You can DM me on Instagram. I am at Sabrina Bendory, and my podcast is You Will Be Okay, because you will be okay.
Yeah. I love that. Okay, we're going to link everything. Sabrina, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. And you have to send me your address. I'll send you an advanced copy of the book. So send it to me. Okay, amazing.